Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NFL Preseason Power Rankings. It's DeanoTalksSports, joined by Pat or No Huddle NFL. We just got done. I'm sorry, let me start that one over. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NFL Preseason Power Rankings. I'm your host, Dean Trombino, joined by my co-host, Pat or No Huddle NFL. Pat, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great. Third recording of the day.
Third
Almost
recording
done.
of the
Almost
day.
done. We're
Got
halfway
one
done.
more after this
Yep.
one. Yeah, we got to do this one and one more. And if you haven't watched the prior videos of the Power Ranking series, there's one on Pat's channel and one on mine. I have 32 doing the evens. He's doing 31 in the odds, where we talked about the Patriots and the Commanders. And today we will be talking about our 30th ranked team, the Denver Broncos. A very interesting squad. A squad that once again selected a rookie quarterback in the first round, a squad with a this time proven head coach rather than the last two teams we talked about. And we can get started getting right into that head coach, Sean Payton, Saints legend, one of the great offensive minds in this game. Tell me about Sean Payton.
Well, Sean Payton, as we know, Super Bowl champion, right? He's
Super Bowl
done
champ.
some stuff throughout his career, but I don't know if you feel the same way. Maybe you feel a little bit differently, but this year, what he did with Denver, I guess last year, I started to feel a little bit of doubt towards, is Sean Payton really this guy, or does Sean Payton's style hold up in terms of bringing the culture, with him, right? In terms of the locker
Right.
room, managing the locker room, because there were fights on that sideline. That's not a good
Yep.
look for the head
Absolutely.
coach. A lot of the time, that falls on the head coach. So to me, this is going to be a true litmus test as to how good is Sean Payton. Is he really still like this great head coach? Does his style still hold up? I don't know. I think this will really test that for us. Has he lost it after not coaching for a little bit? I think this season will really determine a lot of that. Although I'm not gonna let 1 year completely change my opinion on him. I used to
Right.
love Sean Payton, and one bad year with Russell Wilson as the quarterback isn't gonna completely change that for me. Now, if he follows that up this season with another bad year, okay, yeah, then some narratives are gonna start up. But right now, at this current moment, I have a good amount of confidence in Sean Payton. Not as much as I used to, but a good amount. And I think now he's building this team in his identity. It's no longer, I'm going to make Russ work. Now it's him doing his thing. At first, they brought in Sean Payton because Russell Wilson wasn't playing well. And they thought if anyone could fix it, it's Sean Payton.
Right.
He couldn't do it. But now, they committed to Sean Payton in order to try and help their commitment to Russell Wilson. And now Russell Wilson's gone, but they still committed to Sean Payton. They're trying to make that work. They are building that team the way Sean Payton wants it to be built. This can work very poorly, but it also could work very well. And considering that Sean Payton has won a Super Bowl in the past, has been a very good head coach for the entire 2010s, you like to think this will continue to work out.
Yeah, you'd love to believe so. And to his credit, I think people think more highly of Russell Wilson because of last year and what Sean Payton was able to do with him. Was he great? No, but if you're strictly looking at statistical stuff, Russ had a pretty decent season. And it was a lot better than it was with Nathaniel
Oh,
Hackett as
yeah.
his head coach.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
tell you that. So I think I still have some faith in Sean Payton for sure. And we can start looking at, of course, offense coordinator Joe Lombardi. I don't like Joe Lombardi, but lucky for this Broncos team, Joe Lombardi's not calling the plays. It's going to be Sean Payton through and through.
Yeah, listen, I think Lombardi is going to have a little bit of an impact, but Lombardi, when he's being managed by an offensive minded head coach, to me that seems like a good thing. And Lombardi's offense is very similar to Sean Payton's. I think Sean Payton's is
Yes.
just a better version of it. It's going to be a quick, tempo passing offense over the middle, West Coast. Like, that's what they're going to do. And
Yep.
when I look at it, I think this is a good scheme. I think this is a good scheme. We're going to look at the team. I think the team is built to fit that scheme. What does Sean Payton like to do? What does Lombardi, or we don't really know what Lombardi likes to do. I'm not really talking about what Lombardi likes to do because, like you said, it's Sean Payton's offense. Sean Payton, what does he like to do? He likes to do those quick tempo patterns, all that stuff. We know that. Running the
Right.
ball, what does he want? He wants big guys, gap scheme, punch you in the mouth. He wants running backs to run it right up the middle. That's what he wants. And he wants his short yardage guys, but he doesn't really care much about hitting big in the running game. He really doesn't. Now, if he could, that's great. But he cares more about the run game being just a consistent way of getting a couple yards. And he kind of sees the passing game the same way. Listen, Sean Payton is not about the big splash play. He never has been.
No. No.
If he needs to take the shot, he will. But for the most part, it is 5-yard pass, 5-yard pass, 3-yard run, 5-yard pass, 7-yard pass, 5-yard run. Like, he's going to go up the field just slowly but surely. That's how he does it.
Yep.
Efficiently. I remember all those years late in Drew Brees' career. He was constantly finishing far and away the top of the league in completion percentage. And that's because the offense is built around creating high percentage passing looks. You know, getting receivers open, even if it's not too far down the field, you'll take 3 yards, okay? You'll take 4 yards. Even if it's through the air, I know a lot of people are looking for that 10-yard gain. He's fine with the quarterback settling for 4 yards. And then, you know, if a receiver can make a play after the catch, that's great. But if they can't, oh, well, it is what it is. Okay, we got next down to do it. He just wants to get yardage on every play, and that shows in how they run the ball, how they pass the ball. I think it's a well-put-together offensive scheme that still holds up today.
I happen to agree with you, and they happen to have a brand new signal caller back there, as we've alluded to. 12th overall pick, 5th quarterback off the board in this year's draft, Bo Nix. Mm-hmm. And Bo Nix is the definition, in my eyes, of high floor, low ceiling prospect. I don't know if you agree with that, but I that's my sentiment on Bo Nix. High floor, lower ceiling compared to a lot of other guys. But as a pro ready,
agree. I completely agree. Yeah, you said I don't know if I agree with that. Of course I agree. I think you would have to have no eyes for scouting quarterbacks if you truly see him as some boomer bust prospect. Bo Nix, he's going to be a starter for years. It's just a question of how high caliber.
That's the thing, is how high caliber can Bo Nix be? My personal, like the comparison I settled on was Derek Carr. I think he's Derek Carr incarnate. That's kind of what I settled on with him. We're going to see, I think this is going to be super interesting. We're going to see how this offense looks without Drew Brees back there, and not Russell Wilson, of course, who we both agree bad quarterback, with a just solid quarterback back there. Is it? Are we going to see? Is it Sean Payton all the way through? Is it Drew Brees all the way through? Is it a mix of both? Well, we're going to find that out.
It's not just as simple as solid quarterback, Russell Wilson's a bad quarterback. There's no position in the sport more dependent on the scheme than the quarterback position. No position. Probably in any sport, if I'm being honest. And the fact is, Russell Wilson, I know he's executed in West Coast offenses his whole career. Darrell Bevell's West Coast offense, that's not traditional West Coast. And neither was Schottenheimer's at all. Okay? Now, maybe they're West Coast coaches, but when they had Russell Wilson, they were not running a West Coast offense, or at least not when they were having success. Right?
Yep.
And with Russell Wilson, he wasn't someone that times his throws, puts throws across the middle. In fact, he ignores the middle of the field. He wants to throw outside the numbers, he wants to chuck it deep. Okay? He was so far from the Sean Payton archetype of quarterback. Now, whether you like Bo Nix or not, you got to admit, Bo Nix can execute a West Coast offense. That might not be exactly what he ran in college, but he's so clearly built in terms of what he does. Well,
it's the same sort of ideas. In college, he was getting the ball out quick to his playmakers.
Exactly.
Very efficient. That was Bo Nix in college.
Listen, so you said your comp was Derek Carr. My comp was actually, and this isn't a knock, it's going to sound a little bit like a knock, but an early career Ryan Tannehill.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's very fair.
Yeah. Because making throws on the run, but not really striving to do it. The mobility I think is very similar to an early career Ryan Tannehill, and he's someone that manages the game, executes the offense as he's told. And some people kind of have a gripe with him being that type of quarterback, but listen, this is a draft class that I saw. I'm going to be honest, I think Caleb Williams was a little bit more of a boomer bust than people are acting like it. I think Jaden Daniels has a high floor because of his mobility, but in terms of career quarterback, kind of boomer bust in that way. Drake May is definitely a boomer bust prospect. I would say Michael Penix is boomer bust.
Yep.
This was a draft class filled with kind of risky quarterbacks. Bo Nix stood out as the one and only safe option. And that includes McCarthy. McCarthy, I do not think was overly safe.
McCarthy's 100% boomer bust.
Yeah, exactly.
McCarthy's also the definition of boomer bust.
100%. The only safe quarterback in this draft was Bo Nix. And Bo Nix was very clearly the best for this scheme. 100%. There's no doubts about it. And for me, that's the big difference. The offense is now going to be ran Sean Payton's way. It's no longer going to be Sean Payton running what Russell Wilson likes, even though that's not even close to what he likes. Okay? It's going to be the Sean Payton scheme. It's no longer Sean Payton with a little bit of Russell Wilson or Russell Wilson scheme with a little bit of Sean Payton. No, this is going to be the Sean Payton offense. And that's why Russell Wilson got benched last year. Because while statistically Russell Wilson wasn't that bad, he just wasn't able to execute the Sean Payton stuff.
Right. Now, there begs the question of, should you have picked high floor, low ceiling in this division? Right? You have Mahomes. Is this the guy who's going to outduel Mahomes twice a year? Is this the guy who's going to outduel Justin Herbert twice a year? Right? He'll outduel Aiden O'Connell, or at least have a very good shot of outdueling Aiden O'Connell, I'm sure. But it's the other two you're worried about. Mm-hmm. And, at the end of the day, it's like, if it works in Sean Payton's offense, it works. But considering the quarterbacks, I'm not saying it's a bad decision to take him yet. I'm not saying it was a good one. All I'm saying is, if you're watching, keep in your head, is this the guy who's going to outduel those two quarterbacks twice a year? We're going to have to see. But this isn't the only quarterback worth talking about in this room. Or Zach Wilson's on this team, right? And Zach Wilson may not be very good. But it's worth mentioning. This guy was the number 2 overall pick 3 years ago, right? And it kind of brings up the point of, if somebody can fix Zach Wilson, it'd be Sean Payton type of thing. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think Bo Nix is the he's the starter, 100%.
And I don't even think Wilson's the QB too. I think Stidham is the better quarterback.
I think Stidham
for this scheme.
From what I've heard, Zach Wilson's looked good in camp. From what I've understood, so I'd be a little surprised if, at the end of the day,
I just don't think that Wilson is the type of guy that executes an offense like this. I don't.
Right.
Even though, again, Wilson played in a West Coast offense, it's the same type of thing. He played in it. That doesn't mean he executed it properly.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm just saying.
I think they brought in Wilson more to kind of prevent the Raiders from trading up and taking Nix. I think that's why. I think that was the main reason. I don't think Wilson is genuinely in this team's future plans. Now, is there a chance he fixes them? Maybe, but there was also a chance that Russell Wilson got fixed by Sean Payton. And did that happen? Yeah. No. So it's just
I think Bo Nix is the guaranteed starter. Yes. I don't even think it's a competition.
Exactly.
I'm just mentioning that Zach Wilson's on this team. He reportedly looks pretty good at camp. Something to keep an eye on as more of a backup option. And, if Bo Nix for some reason is not good, then you turn to him and see what happens there. But I digress. Let's move to the weapons that Nix is going to have to work with in this offense, starting with the highlight reel himself, human highlight reel, Courtland Sutton. I mean, the definition of highlight catch last year. So many fantastic plays, and he's really turned himself into a wide receiver one. Now, is he a high-end wide receiver one? Maybe not. But
he's a good enough one. He plays a wide receiver one. And here's my thing, too. I also think there's more than 32 wide receiver ones in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
That's the reality. There's more than 32. There's more wide receiver ones than there are teams in the NFL. So, yeah, you better have a wide receiver one, and these guys do. Now,
yep.
I don't know if I think Cortland Sutton's going to be generally less successful than last year, but he's still going to do the same. He's still going to threaten teams the same way, and he still is going to get his fair share of 50-50 balls when they ask him to. I just think it's going to be a lot more across the middle, and I don't really think that's Cortland Sutton's game. Now, he still could be a contributor. I expect him to be a contributor, but I don't think... I think he's a wide receiver one mainly because of how he'll threaten opposing teams, not because he's going to be used like one.
Yeah, absolutely. He's this team's X. That's what we can say for sure. This team's X receiver. And then, of course, there's also there's more receivers in between, but I love to mention drafting Bo Nix's college teammate, Troy Franklin Jr., who, yes, maybe he wasn't the best receiver in the world on this draft, but I thought he fell too far for my liking. I had a higher grade than where he went, and I thought it was a good pick.
I think he's going to be like a Robbie Anderson. When Robbie Anderson was good on the Jets, I'm saying he's going to have his big plays. Okay, he will. But I don't think he's going to be a common, contributor. I think he's going to make big plays throughout his career. But that's really all I see him as. A big play guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we have Marvin Mims, who had flashes last year. I think he could be, kind of plays almost like a Tyler Lockett kind of role. You know what I mean? That's kind of the play style he fills.
Bigger than his size.
Yes,
he plays bigger than his size, 100%. This is someone who it seems like Sean Payton loves. It seems a lot like he loves him. We're going to talk more about him when we go to special teams, though. Marvin Mims is a player that I think does a lot of things well as a, ball possession guy, despite being smaller. I think he's a speedy guy. He offers a lot as, not just a playmaker, but he could also be a consistent option because he isn't the worst route runner on earth either. He does a little bit of damage in that way, too. So I think Marvin Mims is a name that excites me a decent amount. I don't know how much of a role he's going to have, but I think he's going to contribute.
I think he'll contribute too. And then we look at this team's, at the moment, listed wide receiver 2, Josh Reynolds, who had put together a decent season with the Lions last year. And Tim Patrick, someone I know a lot of Broncos fans are pretty excited about. And this was a guy that was a contributor on this team and was expected to be one last year. And then he got hurt, right? Was it before the season or during the first game? I think it was before.
He got injured before the season.
Yeah, before the season. And this is somebody who I think could be a pretty good fit in a Sean Payton role as that big slot guy.
Yeah.
That's something that Sean Payton loves in his offenses. And there's another guy who I think is a very good fit for that role that we'll touch on when we move to another position. But overall,
I love this receiver core in terms of the depth.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys I look at and I'm like, yeah, I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see how he contributes, where he fits in. You mentioned Josh Reynolds. Listen, he's been getting better and better ever since he was on the Rams. I mean, very good player. Very good player.
Very good.
And I'm glad they paid him. He deserves that type of money. Him, Tim Patrick, who you mentioned. They have a lot of names that excite me.
I'm the same way. And now we can move to the running back room, which, I think it's a damn good room when I look at it right now.
Really?
I mean, I like Javonte Williams.
So
quite a
Javonte,
bit.
I loved his rookie year.
Yes.
Since the injury, I don't think he's been the same player, not even remotely.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, I don't know if he's running back's running back, so it doesn't really matter. The offensive line is going to pave ways no matter who's running the ball.
Yep.
But Javonte Williams, since his rookie year, he just doesn't excite me. He really doesn't.
And that's fine. But I think depth-wise, again, good room. Samaje P. Ryan.
Yep.
Nice depth piece there. I liked Audric Estime coming out of Notre Dame as that power back. He's
gonna be like Sean Payton's Mark Ingram.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gonna
pound
that rock.
I love in this scheme with who's the coach and how he uses these type of running backs, Jaleel McLaughlin. I think he could be good in the receiving threat. I just think it's a damn good, solid room.
I think it's deep, but I don't see a lead horse. I just don't see a lead horse, if I'm being honest.
Right, and I think that's fine. And I think Javonte Williams can come back to maybe not rookie form, but better than last year, in
Maybe.
my opinion.
Yeah,
But
last
and
year
if
he
that's the
averaged
case,
3.6 yards per carry. That's just not exciting.
no.
It's
But
not at all.
I think it's a very nice room to have.
Listen,
Like you're not
they
worried
have the
about it.
offensive line. Even if they don't
Yes.
have a lead horse, it's fine. They're gonna like the offensive line is really good for run blocking, without a doubt.
hmm
So
Specifically for run blocking, yeah.
yeah,
We get to the tight end room now. Adam Troutman, who he's bringing over from the Saints, just a really solid tight end.
mm-hmm.
I'd imagine is going to play more of that inline wide tight end for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But then we get to a really interesting player in Greg Dulcich, and this is a guy who got hurt. He's dealt with
Yep.
injuries, but I think is ideal for that big slot receiver that Sean Payton
He
loves.
can do a little bit of everything. But
Yes, and
you think he's gonna go full time jumbo slot, huh?
I think he's going to play a lot more jumbo slot than he does in line tight end. Yes,
Okay.
that's what I
Oh
imagine.
yeah. I didn't really make that projection. I mean, I could see it. Like I see him as like this big playmaker more than anything. I don't think he's like a like when I think the Sean Payton tall slot, I think about like Michael Thomas. You know,
Right?
I
Yeah.
think about those types of guys. And to me, I just don't think Dolkix has that type of. I don't know. Me and you clearly feel different about him. To me, he seems a lot more like we're doing a play action shot at a 12 personnel, and he's really going to threaten you vertically,
Right.
like a big play threat type of guy. That's how I see him. But I guess it's not impossible for him to play that jumbo slot role and be that chain mover. I guess it's possible.
That's what I imagine from him if he can stay healthy. And that's
Mm-hmm.
the thing with Dulcich is you don't know if he's going to stay healthy. He's dealt with injuries his entire time with the Broncos.
Yeah,
And
that's fair. The fullback though, Michael Burden,
Michael Burton,
he's
yep,
someone familiar with Sean Payton. They both had their thing. I think it was 2019. He was on the Saints.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, he's a decent blocker, but more than anything, he's a utility guy for when it's short yardage situations. Right? You can give him a
yep,
fullback dive, or you could even throw him a swing pass in 3rd and 1, and he'll get the yard. He's someone that will just. He's there for the short yardage situations. Very simple. He's a very textbook fullback, right? Simple as that. Sean Payton likes him clearly, and he just plays that Sean Payton role.
yep. Then we can move to this offensive line, which we've alluded to being a
Mm-hmm.
very good run blocking group, and that's because they are. That's
Yeah.
because they really are. Garrett Bowles, really, right below. I think he's right below the great tier for left tackle for
Yeah.
me. He's
No, listen,
really good.
he's a little bit on the decline at this point, but he's still a very
Yeah,
good player. Very good player.
yeah,
And again, we talked about it earlier. What does Sean Payton want in the offensive line? He wants these big body movers. That's what he looks for. And
yep,
Bowles is one of them, and I'm telling you, you're going to go through a couple other names that fit that exact bill.
yep. And then we got Ben Powers, who I thought fits that exact bill.
Uh,
Definitely not the greatest pass blocker in the world, at least from what I saw
mhm.
last year. But
Yeah.
again, as a run blocker, fits that mold.
Great
Fits that
puller.
mold to a T.
Great puller.
Great puller.
And again,
Luke
that's
Watton.
something he'll do. He'll run power. He'll run counter. He'll run trap. Like he is willing to run those type of concepts where he puts his guards on the move.
Yep. And then we got probably the weakest position along this offensive line in center with Luke Wattenberger. And well, that's projected starter.
Mm-hmm. Well, him or Mustafa.
Yes, Mustafa.
It could be
Uh,
either.
could be either one. Definitely, I would say the weakest position along this
I agree.
offensive
I
line.
agree.
And then you got the best, maybe the best
Best
offensive player
last
on
year.
this team.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely best last year.
yeah. Quinn Miners, just amazing guard,
Mm-hmm.
man.
Yeah.
Fantastic guard.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about Mahler in the run game? That is Quinn Miners. He is that his game against the Bills last year. Oh my gosh, the film is beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
just amazing, and like he's a great like he's just an overall great guard, one of the best players on this team for
And
sure.
much like Ben Powers, you could put him on the move, make him pull, let him go up to the second level, and he'll do a really good job at it.
Yes, he will. And then Mike McGlinchey, who run blocking right
Yep.
tackle.
Yeah.
He's not a fantastic pass blocker by any
Mm-hmm.
stretch, but he gets the job done. Like you're not sitting here worried about this offensive line too much.
Mm-hmm. Even it's way better at run blocking, But pass blocking is not bad.
Yeah,
And
it's not like the Patriots who we covered in 32.
yeah,
We said
exactly.
they're gonna maul people, but this is an awful pass blocking
Yeah.
unit.
This is
This is
a
this
fine
is an
pass
all right.
blocking. It's
Exactly.
all right at pass blocking, and then they're going to maul people in the run game. Right.
Yes,
So, and
exactly.
again, here's the thing, too. When you're getting the ball out quick, like Sean Payton does, it's not that much of a problem if you're just average on the offensive line pass
I mean,
blocking.
you look at the Dolphins offensive line last year.
Yeah.
Tua was getting the ball out in 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't really matter as much. It
The
masks a lot of
only
those
thing
things.
though is that the interior offensive line for the Dolphins is not anywhere near as good at run blocking.
Yes, yes,
Anywhere near as good.
absolutely. I just more wanted to point out the fact of just like you can limit the pass
Yeah,
protection issues if you're getting
yeah,
the ball out quick.
exactly. 100% agree.
What kind of ceiling do you see for this offense, or like even a floor?
I mean, if you're talking about like a ranking, I could see it. Like I would say probably like just a little bit outside of average, probably like 18. I
Yeah,
would say. You're saying floor, right?
yeah,
Yeah, floor 18, 20, something like that.
yeah. It's definitely not going to be bad, like really
Yeah,
bad
I don't
or
think it
anything
will be.
like that. But is there a world where it's like, oh, it's above average, like,
I could
or
see it
do
being
you think it's
above
the
average, but I see it like again. If I were to rank them, I'd be surprised to see them any higher than 12. You
right,
know,
right?
it should be a good offense that should be performing as Peyton wants. It's just a question of how efficient is that, how effective is that in today's league. We're gonna find out.
Totally. So who's your offensive player of the year on this squad?
So this is the first time I'm picking a lineman for offensive player of the year. I got Quinn Miners. You
And that's a
mentioned him.
fantastic pick.
He's
Yes.
a mauler, man. He is great guard. So I'm going with him 100%.
And I might have put someone different, but at the end of the day, I can't pick against that. I think I am going to go Quinn Miners as well.
Mm-hmm.
He is he's going to be such a huge part of what this offense is able to do because they want Bo Nix to play this point guard, do well off play action, get the ball out quick, and that comes a lot from them being able to run the football.
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna run a lot of plays right behind him. So
Whether that's on his side or on the other side, and they just have him pulling, it doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter.
They will be running behind him, 100
Yes.
percent.
And offensive rookie of the year, I'm sure we have the same thing.
Yeah,
That
Troy
being Bo
Franklin.
Nix.
Yeah, Bo Nix. Yeah,
Yeah, it'll be Nick Gargiulo, whatever you say that name. But yeah, Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix, you're seeing a rookie quarterback working with Sean Payton in an offense that fits him. Match made in heaven, at least
yeah,
for Nix.
exactly. I completely agree. Completely agree. Now I
Do you
actually
have
have
your
my X factor and my 12th man on this side of the ball.
great?
So my X factor is Marvin Mims.
Okay.
I think they want him either playing the wide receiver 3, maybe even the wide receiver 2 role, really. I really think that Sean Payton really likes him, like loves him. I really do feel that way.
And my X factor is a guy I touched on being Greg Dulcich because I do think he
Mm-hmm.
can play that
Yeah,
big
listen, if you can
slot
play that
role.
role for them, that'll be big. That'll be
It'll be a
huge.
big time if he can perform at what I think he can perform at for them. That'll be a big deal, especially in Sean Payton's
But
offense.
it's funny because my 12th man of the year, I kind of have playing that role. I have Tim Patrick as the guy that'll play that role, but I think he's going to do it as a 12th man.
Right.
So again, we know how much he likes to have the Michael Thomas type of guys, and I think Tim Patrick will play that role. Obviously, not to the level that Michael Thomas did because he would be a starter if that was the case. But Tim Patrick is a guy I think can really contribute.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think I'm excited to see him because he's a good player, and
Mm-hmm.
I was disappointed to see him out with injury last year.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Injuries have kind of been a thing for his career, like a while.
And
Uh,
I did have my 12th man on here
okay.
as well. My 12th man of the year was going to be another tight end in Adam Troutman,
Mm-hmm.
just as that tight end that comes in as the 12 personnel tight end comes in, just blocks, gets the occasional catch, gets a couple touchdowns,
Mm-hmm.
a good run blocker. That's the role I think he plays.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, I have Troutman as the tight end one, but we'll find out, right?
Yeah,
I think
we'll
it
find
really
out.
can be either. All right, so now let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. How do we feel about Vance Joseph and him?
No, as a Dolphins fan, I can make fun of Vance Joseph all I want for allowing us to drop 70 on his head last year. But no, I actually think he did a very good job with that defense near the end of the season, or going towards the back half of the season. Uh, I don't know. We're gonna have to see. I don't think he's some great defensive mind, but I think you could do a lot worse than Vance Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Where are
Yeah,
you
I
at with
mean,
him?
so there was one point where Vance Joseph was hailed a lot more, but I see Vance Joseph as, like you said, he's not anything too special anymore. He definitely has his style, but he's kind of just there. Like, he's not bad, but he's not great. He's a zone blitzing guy. He likes to blitz
Yep.
out of zone. He'll send some unique packages at you. He'll drop some certain people into covers that you wouldn't expect, but that's kind of what every zone blitz guy does. Uh, yeah, I mean, he's been doing the same thing since 2016, right? Vance Joseph, he's good at what he does. He's not gonna. You got to have a certain type of personnel. I think that they do have that certain type of personnel. I'm excited to see it, but he's not gonna, break worlds or anything. He's fine.
No, he is fine, but I don't think the defense he's working with roster wise is very fine. Like, I don't think it's a very
Sure.
great unit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump into it. What would you say is your first area of concern?
100% the secondary. I think the secondary is
Yeah.
outside of Pat Surtain, who is one of the best corners in football. Do
Yep.
not get
Yep.
it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of him, it's bad. It's really bad.
Well, we agree. Obviously, Pat Surtain's phenomenal, electrifying, downright tremendous, tremendous player.
Yep.
But I mean, I like Caden Stearns.
I like Stearns. Don't get me
Mhm.
wrong.
But
Don't get me wrong.
besides those two, yeah, it's bad. It's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. Levi Wallace, opposite of Surtain. Jaquan McMillan as your slot.
Yeah, it's
I'm a Dolphins fan. I can speak in Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones, you're starting free safety. You're not gonna have a great time.
mm-hmm.
Brandon Jones is a box blitzing guy. That's not. I mean, it's rough.
But do you think that there's a chance Caden Stearns and Jones switch? No, because Stearns
they want
a box
Stearns
guy.
to be
Yeah,
box
exactly.
safety
That's
guy.
the
Exactly.
thing. Yeah.
And PJ Locke's okay. Like, he's not like some liability, but he's also a very painfully average safety.
And he's
Like
another box guy, Locke.
Yes.
So it's listen, Vance
You know who
Joseph
else is a box guy?
gonna
JL
send.
Skinner.
Yeah,
JL
Vance
Skinner.
Joseph is gonna send his guys. He's gonna have safeties walk down and blitz. Like, it's gonna happen. But you gotta have some safeties that could play in the middle third and play in the deep half. You gotta have it, and they just don't.
Yep.
I am completely in agreement with you on this one. Yeah, it's a bad secondary. They got some high highs. Again, I like Stearns, and I really, really like Surtain.
Of course.
But you gotta have more than that.
And I will say, I think Chris Abrams-Drain, maybe the rookie, he comes in. I could see him being better than Levi Wallace, but that's also not
high
saying
on Drain?
Not super high, but I think where they got him, it was good value.
Yeah.
Like, he could be something.
Hmm.
I didn't love him, but again, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say he could be better than Levi Wallace.
I
But
don't
that's
know.
also not saying a lot.
Year one, I really don't have confidence. I also don't know if he really fits like a zone blitzing scheme.
Right.
That's not really his game. So I don't know. For me, the secondary, I'm in complete agreement with you. I don't think it's put together too well. I really don't.
I do not. I do not at all. And I also am not a fan of the linebacking, just off-ball linebackers in general. Alex Singleton, it's funny. He was the lead guy in a lot of the Broncos uniform showing off their new uniform. And I'm like, why? Alex Singleton.
Well, it's because he had a lot of tackles, and to some people, that's their knowledge of
Blake Martinez.
Exactly. Some people have their entire knowledge of how good a football player is defensively as just tackles. Like that's probably the fantasy football community. But yeah, but Singleton is a good run defender. Like, I think he contributes as
He's
a
a
run
good
defender.
run defender.
But
He's not great in coverage.
yeah, no, he's bad in coverage. He's bad in coverage. But I do like him
Bad in
as a run
coverage.
defender.
Cody Barton, he put together a fine season in Washington last year, but again, you're looking at a kind of very similar player to Alex Singleton, better in coverage than Singleton for sure, but nothing special. You're not looking at this linebacker room and thinking, yeah, we have some special players here. There is a guy like Drew Sanders. They drafted him relatively high last year. I liked him coming out of the draft. I have
To
some
me, he
question
might be a
marks.
little bit more of an edge.
That's what I was going
That's
to
what I
say. Yeah.
label him as. But he is someone that could drop back in coverage. He's more of the ideal hybrid 3-4 edge rusher type
Yeah,
of guy.
you think of like almost a Kyle Van Noy type of
Yeah,
situation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Precisely. I completely agree. But he is someone that I liked a lot as that type of role player. But
Yeah.
does Vance Joseph really use his guys like that? Some guys yes, some guys no. We'll see, really, with him.
Yeah, we'll see. And outside of those three, very underwhelming room. You're really hoping that Barton and Singleton are just average, and
Yeah.
that's what you're hoping for. And there's a potential that they are, but again, nothing to get excited about with these guys.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely in agreement. We talked a little bit about Drew Sanders playing potentially that edge position. Let's talk about the other edge rushers that they have, though. You look at that room, there's some names that, you see the name and it's not overly flashy. But then you look at the seasons they put together. I mean, man, let me say right now, we got Jonathan Cooper, who, I'm going to be honest, I knew who the player was. I knew he was good. I watched his film and then even looked at the pressures and, some of those analytics. This guy put together a heck of a year last year.
He's good.
Good. Without a doubt. And then you also got Browning, who's a great player in his own right. So it's two guys that, they're not TJ Watt. They're not even big names, not even remotely. But they're a lot better than most people believe they are.
Oh, absolutely. And especially with Browning's case. Browning is like special bend for an edge rusher.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Like, he's got some of the best bend in the league. Now, when it comes to the other stuff, that's why he's not up there with the TJ Watts and such. But, like, Browning's one of those guys. There's always those guys around the league who, one of these off seasons, he's going to get a big contract. He will. I think it's going to happen, especially if he puts together a good season this year. And people are like, holy overpay, or like, who is this guy and why did he get this big of a contract? And it's like, go watch the film. And he's a really fantastic pass rusher, and I'm excited to see what he can do. And even like the depth, I like Nick Bonito as an edge 3. Is he not some like superstar again? No, but as an edge 3, heck yeah. Guy. And I'd really like the fit for Jonah Ellis, the rookie out of Utah. I liked him as an edge rusher coming out. And again, is he ever going to be a superstar? Probably not. But as a good rotational edge rusher,
even in year one. In year one, he's very someone polished. Who really has polish. He has a lot of moves in his bag. And you're saying he doesn't have the ability to be really that stud. And that's kind of how it feels watching the film. Yeah. But you look at his combine, he showed some of those traits that make you say, okay, maybe this guy can emerge as one of those better players. He's one of those rare high floor, and even though on film it seems like low ceiling guys, you look at the combine and you look at the physical traits and all of a sudden, hey, maybe the ceiling's a lot higher than we're giving it credit for too. Exactly. He's a player I really like in terms of value where they took him. So this edge room, it's a deep one. But it's complemented really well by an interior defensive line that I also think is pretty underrated. I mean, you look at some of these names. John Franklin Myers is kind of a forgotten guy. Great player.
Really good player.
Can also get to the quarterback. I mean, this is really going to threaten teams from a pass rush perspective.
And you'll see scenarios. Sorry to interrupt, but you'll see scenarios where John Franklin Myers is also going to be rushing off the edge. He did that with the Jets, where they moved him outside.
The only thing is maybe, I guess it was a 3-4 there a little bit too, but I think just because they really have a lot of personnel at the edge position. I mean, we said they're Definitely. 4 deep. They're 4 deep, so maybe we won't see that as much. But I mean, again, that versatility is an asset, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you have Drew Sanders drop back, spot drop, and now John Franklin Myers is kind of playing the edge role, even though he's a little bit further inside than is
Yeah.
ideal. So, again, I really like this defensive line, not just the edge rushers. John Franklin Myers is one guy I like. Tell me, because again, this is a pretty deep interior defensive line too. Is there another guy that you're a big fan of here?
Yeah, Zach Allen. I thought maybe he didn't have the season you really wanted him to have last season, but I still have a ton of belief in him as a player. It's funny. He's one of those players where they were a draft crush of yours and they didn't work out for like 3 years, and then in year 4 they finally put it together. Because that last year he was in Arizona, he was phenomenal. Again, last year comes in, maybe not quite the season like you're expecting from a guy who got a contract as big as he did, but still productive player, knows how to do his job well, great run defender. I I love Zach Allen.
Yeah.
I think he's a big part of this defensive line, and I like DJ Jones.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
DJ Jones is awesome.
Two guys really good against the run. Both of them
Yeah,
really good against the run. But the thing I find so interesting about Zach Allen, I mean, you said it yourself. His big glow up year was his last year in Arizona. Contract year. And it's so interesting to me because he's not the same caliber of player, but his style of play is really similar to that of the edge on the other side of him in Arizona, in J.J. Watt.
yes,
He plays a
yes,
really similar style of ball. Now, of course, he's not J.J. Watt, but he
yeah,
plays a similar style. And it
right.
really is impressive because they need that kind of dominant run defending presence on this defensive line. And it's part of the reason that he's able to play both on the interior and the edge. It's two guys in John Franklin Myers and Zach Allen that have that edge interior versatility, and that's what allows them to spot drop a Drew Sanders or a Browning or a Cooper. They can spot drop these guys because they have some defensive linemen on the interior that could play contain and do it really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like their depth as well. I think having Malcolm Roach and Matt Henningsen on rotation, like, hey, you need to come in, give our guys a breather. You're feeling good about that. You're not looking at these guys as being, oh, this is a liability that they're going to be on the field for a couple plays. No, like you have some guys that can step in, get a couple plays in, get it right back. I really like the depth along this defensive line in general.
Yeah. And listen, if there's one spot more than anything that you want to have depth, it's the defensive line.
Defensive
It
line.
is.
Yep.
And they are stacked there. Now, again, they don't have the overwhelming, they don't have the Max Crosbys, they don't have the TJ Watts, they don't have the Myles Garretts, but they have a lot of guys, okay?
Yes.
And I'd rather have like 8 guys, 7 guys that rotate in and out, and I have them at 100% every single time they're out there, than TJ Watt being out there on every single snap.
Yeah.
Personally, that's how I feel. Now, some people might feel differently, and that's fair, but I look at this and I feel really good about the defensive line. I would say it might be the highlight of their team, in all honesty.
I would have to agree.
Yeah,
And
it's a good
it
group.
like and there's a world where this defensive line is getting to the quarterback enough and is creating enough pressures that it makes this secondary, which we don't think is very good, look pretty good because secondary's best friend is edge rushers and defensive tackles getting to the quarterback before they can throw the ball. So we'll have to see how that goes. I don't know if they're going to be creating that much pressure to cover up the weaknesses that the secondary has, but it's something to look at for sure.
Yeah, listen, I am in complete agreement right there. Now, let's move over to the defensive superlatives, right? We went over the position groups. Tell me, defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year, what are we thinking?
Defensive rookie of the year, I'm thinking Jonah Ellis for sure. Like that's a for sure in my head. I really liked him coming out. He is going to contribute immediately, as you said. Like he could be a rotational edge rusher right now.
Yeah.
Nice bag of pass rush moves. Super polished player. He'll get himself a couple sacks. I think he'll be a fan favorite on this team. Definitely him for defensive rookie of the year, and for defensive player of the year. I think I'm actually going to go with. I was going to go someone else, but I can't not go Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain's too good to do that. He's just
We have the same list.
fantastic.
Same list. And listen, we're in agreement, right? Surtain, as much as they lack at the other spots of the secondary, Surtain is a truly
Yes.
great corner.
Yes.
And having the ability to either, drop him into zone coverage and kind of lock down that area of the field that he's responsible for, or have him man-on-man with the other team's opposing wide receiver one, huge asset, no matter what you choose to do with him, because he can do both and can do both at a really high level. Jonah Ellis, like you said, he's pro-ready. It's not just some rookie that got drafted, day 2. No, this is some rookie that got drafted day 2, but he's remarkably refined. And in terms of players that could go right out of college and play in the NFL, he's definitely in like the top 50 players in the draft class, probably even
Definitely.
top 30. I think you really can make that argument.
100%.
So, great player right there, even though he's just a rookie. He's going to be rotating, but it's not really like there's many other defensive rookies that give me overwhelming excitement.
The only other one is maybe a Chris Abrams drain, but that's
I wasn't big. I wasn't very high on him personally. There is a world where he gets more snaps than Jonah Ellis. I just wasn't big on Abrams drain.
Yeah.
But of course he has his fans without doubt. That's a pick some people might make. Let's move over to the special teams unit though.
Mm-hmm.
Right, special teams. I always love to talk about this on, these shows because this year it's gonna be very important. Special teams is gonna be a big way. It's gonna be a big way that these teams score. I think this is going to be the highest scoring special team season in terms of kick return touchdowns, punt return touchdowns. I'm expecting it to be the biggest season in terms of that because of the new rules. And I like to use this as kind of a way of getting creative, right? Who do you think is going to be a kick returner? Who do you think is a punt returner? And do you see some names that you're excited to see out there, maybe even lead blocking on kick return?
Absolutely. Marvin Mims is first guy that comes to my head. He's just ridiculously fast. Good returner in college. Good returner last year. That could be for both punt and kick return. I think we could see some Troy Franklin when it comes to kick returns. He's just got that really nice long speed there. And I'd be surprised if what's his name, Jaleel McLaughlin didn't get some touches there as a returner.
Yeah.
He's just they've got a really nice group of players that could be returning. Like Marvin Mims could be a really high level returner, and then the rest, a lot of other guys that could have that same potential. And as for guys who would be blocking for him, you imagine the tight ends.
Burton
Nate Adkins, Burton for sure. Nate Adkins, he's like tight end 4 on this team, but he's a really good blocker, and he could be used on kick returners there.
And if Drew Sanders isn't getting many snaps on the field defensively, this could be a way for him to get out there.
Yeah, totally. He could do that. I know, if I'm not mistaken, J.L. Skinner's a pretty big guy, right?
Yeah, Skinner is a bigger guy.
Skinner's a big guy. I could see him doing it.
No,
I think
I'm in agreement with Mims. I do want to mention right now ESPN has him listed as the top punt returner for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Marvin Mims is both the punt returner and the kick returner. Do you think he's gonna do both for them, or do you think Troy Franklin maybe comes in? That's kind of my big question here.
I don't know. I think Mims is going to be pretty important to this offense this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Well, that's kind of why I'm saying
every single return.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's kind of how I'm feeling.
I could see. I think Mims will probably do a lot of punt returning stuff, but when it comes to kickoff returns, I think we'll see kind of a rotation, almost a Troy Franklin, a him, a Jaleel McLaughlin. I think they don't want him on every single return now, because he's going to be on the field more often than not.
Exactly. That's kind of how I'm feeling, because last year he really was like, as much as he was a big play threat and everything, he was also a return specialist for them. He was.
Yes.
This year, I just don't think that will be the case, because of exactly what you said. How often do you want to have a second-year player on the field? I get it, he's explosive, but you really can't do that,
Yeah.
So I'm in complete agreement with you there. Special teams, Marvin Mims, and then of course we got to mention the kicker and punter. Dixon was around middle of the league in yards per punt with 46, and then Will Lutz, we know the name by now. Listen, he's never been the greatest kicker on earth, but he's been in the league for a while, and there's a reason why. He's consistent. He's not Justin Tucker, but he gets the job done more often than not. That's why Sean Payton wanted to keep him around his team. Now, though, let's talk about overall predictions on the season. Before we go into our specific prediction, give us a ceiling, give us a floor.
This like there's a world where, this defense, then that defensive line is really makes this defense average, to above average. There's a world where Sean Payton shows that, he is Sean Payton. He is one of the best head coaches of all time. And Bo Nix is as pro ready as he can be, and he's a perfect fit. They mesh well, the weapons mesh well. I see this team winning like ceiling 9 games. Like they could go above 500. There's a world there that like the coach that's coaching them, the talent on this team. Like yeah, there's a world where that happens. I could also see a world where this team wins like 5 games and has,
Well, listen, I'm willing to go as far as to say that the floor would be 2 games.
yeah,
Like,
that's
I
fine.
really do. Because let's say Sean Payton can't really get it established, right? Let's say
Right.
Sean Payton still does a bad job kind of rebuilding the locker room. There's still issues in that locker room. Some of the corrupt problems from last year. Very
Yeah,
possible. Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback. That's always a little bit concerning.
always.
There's a lot that can go wrong here. Maybe the offensive line is still, we know it's definitely a good run blocking offensive line, but maybe it's awful at pass blocking.
Mhm.
The run game can't get going for whatever reason. Maybe their running backs just can't do a good job. Even though they're deep on the defensive line, the secondary really is that bad that it doesn't matter, and then the linebackers can't play pass coverage, so teams just pick them apart in the quick passing game. I think there's a world where this team only wins 2 games, right? This is a team that could go above 500, but I can also see them finishing at the bottom, if not near the bottom, of the NFL. I look at the schedule. Overall, what's your sentiment here? Right, looking at the schedule. Because I look at it, there's some tough ones, but I don't think it's too bad. I really don't.
It's No, it's not overly hard. You get the benefit of playing the Chargers twice, who, also a team that could be near the bottom of the league.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's not really a rough stretch of games,
Oh,
I'd
for
say.
sure.
There's definitely not a rough stretch of games. The hardest stretch of games is the start of your season. Seahawks, Steelers, Bucks,
Yeah.
Jets, and I'd argue Raiders.
Yeah. But
And
then you follow that up playing the Chargers, Saints, Panthers.
yeah,
So
that
you
like
feel
that's a
really good.
nice feel great there.
Yeah.
Then there's another rough 3 games of like Ravens, Chiefs, Falcons, and then you get right. That's a pretty rough stretch. That's actually a pretty rough stretch. Ravens, Chiefs, Falcons,
Falcons,
Raiders,
Raiders,
Browns,
Browns. Yeah.
Colts. That's
Mm-hmm.
actually a pretty rough stretch of games.
Yeah. No, that probably is their toughest stretch. My thing though, right? And I want to hear your perspective. Do you think it's better to have those tougher games if you're a team with a rookie quarterback? Do you think it's better to have those tougher games early on in the season, or do you think later on is worse? Because I think you can make an argument: get the rookie mistakes out against the opponents you're not going to beat anyway,
Yeah,
right? But maybe you also want your quarterback to start feeling himself early on. So, like, what do you think?
I think it's very, very team specific for
Yeah.
that. If there's a big difference, you're playing the Jets week 4 rather than playing like the Raiders week, 15 whenever that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are two entirely different defenses. I don't know if it was switched, yeah, I feel great about, you know, the Bo Nix going against this Raiders defense that should be good, but not the best in the league. Let's
Mm-hmm.
see if he can get hot early. That's fine. But like if I'm the Broncos, week 4, he's walking into New York against what should be maybe the best defensive football. Then you're like, I don't feel so good about
Yeah,
that.
but
I
either
think it's
way, you're
very
not going to feel
contextual.
good about that. So tell me,
Yeah,
would you rather you have that tough stretch of games early or later on if you're Denver with a rookie quarterback? What do you think?
I always think getting him out early is good, better. I think
Mm-hmm.
so. That's for me. I think getting those rookie mistakes out of the way early is
Yeah.
even
But
against
then
like good teams,
you
letting
could
him let.
also argue that you're going to get rookie mistakes anyway, but you rather play against an easy opponent so you could still win despite them. You know,
Right,
I
but
feel like there's an argument both ways. That's kind of
there's
where it's
totally
like, huh.
totally an argument.
It's definitely subjective. I think it depends on the coach. I think every coach would really answer that differently. But I'm just curious, what's your outlook here?
Again, I would rather, looking at that is such a tough question. Again, I would rather just be like, hey, get these games out early, we can see what we have against good teams. And you might even think of it as like, hey, like it's going to get easier from here. We got these tough teams out of the way early. We got to see us against these upper echelon teams as we're heading into more middle of the pack, bottom tier teams. We can look at that film, see what we did wrong, and push forward from there. And then you can start building some momentum. Yeah, in my eyes, it's kind of like you don't want this momentum against these bad teams. Think of like, I don't know, think of the Dolphins last year. We had some decent wins, but you come down to the back stretch of the season against some really good teams, and suddenly we lose, 4 straight games, and all of our momentum's gone heading into the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs.
Yeah.
It's kind of that.
I just think it's a bit different when you have a rookie. Very
Right.
different.
Yeah.
So
I still, my sentiment still stays the same though. I'd
mhm.
rather get these games out of the way early.
Sure. Yeah. I think again. I think there's an argument both ways there. Now tell me this overall prediction. What do you think?
I could realistically see this team. Let me see if I wrote it down. Let me hear your prediction first. I want to see if I wrote this down first.
I predicted them to be a 7-win team.
Right.
Here.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're a team that goes out there and kind of upsets some teams because they are. I think they're the type of team that the Chiefs might sleep on one week and then go ahead and upset them. And then they're going to take care of business when they need to. I could also see them being one of those teams that kind of have a late season glow up. I know that they have some tough opponents, but that's kind of part of the reason I think they're going to glow up. Right? Go out there, compete. You really got to get motivated to go out there and beat your division rival Chargers and division rival Chiefs. You really got to go out there and be motivated. And because they're so motivated, they go out, win. Right? The same way they did with Drew Lock early in his career. I don't remember if it was his first year or his second year. But towards the end of the season, Drew Lock was kind of balling. And then people were saying during the entire offseason, he might be a dark horse MVP conversation. And, it's Drew Lock, so now that feels crazy to say, but that was a legitimate conversation that people were having because they put the end of the season together so well. And I feel like Sean Payton is the type of guy, young team, but towards the end of the season, they start to put it together, and they go out there and really screw some people up later on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I had them going 6-11, so around that same range. And, yeah, I think there's some upsets down the line for sure. I do think a majority of their wins will come more during the middle of the season. I just think that final stretch of games is pretty rough. But yeah,
well, I just think some teams are going to be caught sleeping going into playoffs.
And you could just like Chiefs going in the play. Chiefs the last week of the season. There's a good chance they already have the bye, and it's like okay, here's our not our starters, but. Well, yeah, I could see that totally. I don't see this team being even average personally, but I think 6-11 is very reachable for them.
My thing is kind of, I don't think they're an average team, but I think they could finish with an average record because, things happen in the NFL, and you look at the schedule, it's not too tough, right?
It's not.
We're not accounting for strength of schedule in our power rankings. But when we're looking at their schedule and trying to make their season prediction, we're definitely going to account for your schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this team might be ranked 30th? Yeah, 30th. But it's a team I think can make noise later on in the season, truly.
Right.
But anyway, thank you all for listening to this episode, watching this episode. I really appreciate it. And then, Dino, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Because this is going to be up on your channel. I don't want to steal the spotlight from you.
No, thank you, everybody, for watching. If you've been keeping up with this would be our 3rd episode. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for leaving likes. Thank you for subscribing. We have our next video coming out, the 29th ranked team in this power ranking, coming out on Pat No Huddle's channel. So if you guys want to head on over that way, I'm sure it'll be up and ready for you to go. But we really appreciate everybody watching this series. We put a lot of work, a lot of time into this. We're going to continue to put a lot of work and time into this. So if you guys have any suggestions as to maybe an added thing you want us to talk about, you think we're missing, like if you thought, hey, you might think the Broncos are winning the Super Bowl this year. If you think that, more power to you. Go tell us in the comments. Go have a discussion in the comments. We'd love to see it. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you guys in the next one.